We were all dubious about a Kojima-less remake of one of the most unique and beloved games of all time, but, well, turns out we needn't have worried. Metal Gear Solid Delta: Snake Eater is an Unreal Engine 5 remake of the original Snake Eater, which first parachuted down onto the PlayStation 2 all the way back in 2004. New voice lines are wonderful, all the original areas are polished to a glistening sheen. A new multiplayer mode dubbed Fox Hunt has been added. It's positioned as both a loving recreation of a classic for old fans of the series and a new jumping on point. It can be both of these things because Metal Gear Solid 3 is still as good as it ever was. As a foundation for a new era of Metal Gear, Konami picked the right game to kick off the process and has been careful enough to leave its merits unspoiled. Delta is, thankfully, a classic restored, its brushstrokes still visible, its spirit intact. Metal Gear Solid 3 is still an outstanding stealth action game after all this time. The soul of a spy thriller, the ghostly essence of Cold War paranoia running through its veins, a game effortlessly able to channel red-knuckle action, vicious betrayal, and borderline tone-ruining silliness that somehow elevates the whole experience rather than dooming it to absurdity. All this perched atop rock-solid stealth action itself that binds the game together like a makeshift Warzone splint. Crawl through the fauna, swap out camo to better hide yourself in the tall grass. Snake! An actual snake! Stab it and eat it for raw stamina. See a custom animation of you pounding back that cobra like a 2 AM kebab.
Want some?
No thanks.
Lurk around dark corners, slither beneath parked trucks like a coiled viper, use CQC to quickly snatch guards from their patrols, drag them to a secluded spot for interrogation, and a cheeky choke matron. You gotta understand, man, while Metal Gear Solid defined this particular genre of stealth action, Metal Gear Solid 3 perfected it. Truly distinct, truly idiosyncratic to its director Hideo Kojima. A balancing act of cool and weird and outrageous that somehow pulls it off with gameplay that respects your own boldness. A game that rewards you for taking your time and consistently rocks you with little touches, presents that even today remain gift-wrapped and glorious. The reason Metal Gear Solid 3 remains so special is these minute details, all of which are untouched and preserved in Delta. Early in the game, you come across a helicopter near a small base. You can walk right past, go on your way, but if you clear out the base, you'll find some TNT in a storage room. Using this TNT to blow up the helicopter will drastically change events in a much later section. We're talking hours later. Nobody tells you to do this. You're not given a tutorial about it, but taking the time to wander around and excavate this merry sandbox will reliably uncover such treasures. The same goes for storerooms. Blow up these small loot-filled closets and enemies in the area will be in a worse state when you return. Blowing up their food stores, for example. Exploding those leaves enemies in that area hungry. And this has gameplay implications. Hungry soldiers will eat food that you throw on the ground, such as poisonous frogs. Throw these deadly snacks on the ground near hungry guards and they'll scurry over for a bite. You can take out a major boss early with a sniper rifle. You can use a fake death pill to bypass tough stealth sections, and yes, you can close the game down and wait for a tricky boss to die of old age. These intricacies are so core to the appeal of Metal Gear Solid 3 that without them the game would be far worse, which is why they've been left in place. Without spoiling things, as much as a 20-year-old game can be spoiled, yes, Metal Gear Solid 3 is probably one of Kojima's better narratives. A riveting tale of political intrigue during the Cold War. Nations clash in the fictional jungles of Russia to avoid nuclear Armageddon and to shift the balance of power. Zooming in, you also get a deeply personal story of what it means to be a soldier, to be a patriot, and the importance of finding something to fight for. An ally one day could be an enemy tomorrow, a truth as true today as it was back in 2004. As with the action itself, meanwhile, this otherwise lofty story of twists and occasional heart-wrenching turns does leave room for silliness, for hijinks. Snake does still have a lady in a swimsuit on the inside of his state-of-the-art stealth jet. You can still throw adult magazines at guards and they will still stare at them, gormless. Time paradoxes remain possible and hilarious all these years later. It's a game that doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's all the better for it. Now, so far this could just be a review of the original release. So what's new in Delta? Well, obvious points first. It looks phenomenal. It's somewhat of a running joke to say, hey, let's take this legendary retro video game and remake it in UE5. Nintendo, hire this man, etc, etc. But Konami has genuinely done the original game a service here. The original intent of the art direction remains preserved and understood. The game has not been stripped of colour or soul, and instead the little additions made possible with this new engine make for welcome improvements. You can now gain a coat of muddy camouflage when crawling through the muck, for instance. It's easier than before to switch camouflage on the go, removing needless menu navigation, especially during tense sneakathons. It's also easier now to plant yourself up against a wall, which otherwise felt a tad clunky in the old release. And we'd be remiss in our duties not to mention Snake vs. Monkey, which is available on the PlayStation and PC versions of the game. This not only brings back an incredibly silly side activity to the Delta remake, but also adds a contemporary twist that acts as a pinch of salt on a caramel sweet and bewildering mode. Some things must be seen to be believed, and you must see Snake vs. Monkey. That said, Konami, through Delta, does the smart thing by not adding where it didn't need to. The vast majority of the game remains as it was, the only additions implemented as enhancements to the core experience that won the hearts of fans back in the day. We'd also note that the voice performances in Metal Gear Solid Delta stand stalwart against the ravages of time. Many will point to David Hayter and Laurie Allen as outstanding examples, both in the original recordings and the additional lines added in Delta. This is certainly true, and they deserve their flowers, preferably white ones, but the entire cast of performers in MGS3 are superstars. Jodie Benson, who only recently stepped forward and officially confirmed her role as Eva, has brought a load-bearing talent to the game, for which we're glad she's finally able to take a bow and much-deserved credit for. There is a downside, albeit one that's entirely optional. The new control scheme. It's cool that it allows for a freely movable camera as well as the ability to move and shoot at will, and if this is intended as a jumping on point for those who are new to the Metal Gear saga, it makes perfect sense to give them modernised controls, as in this day and age the original inputs frankly come across as downright obtuse in the hands of today's modern, coddled audience. I'm including myself in that, by the way. And look, that's fine, but the new controls make the game a bit too easy. Now, on harder difficulties, you'll still get spotted if caught lacking in the camo department, but actually, fending off enemies isn't especially challenging. Take the Fury, for instance. With the original control style, you've got to stop and shoot in first-person mode when using a big weapon like a sniper, right? Even when using smaller arms, the time it takes to get into position and line up a shot is enough for the Fury to start blasting flames at you. With the new control scheme, it's so convenient to take quick pot shots that the cat and mouse dynamic of the fight kind of falls apart. Those familiar with the original game will likely chip in here to say that the fights were never that hard, and sure, that's true, but the tension kind of falls apart now. The fear isn't really that scary when you can easily keep track of him, and trading shots with the end isn't really too daunting when you can do so with ease in third person. Obviously, this would be a much bigger deal if both control schemes weren't available at the start of the playthrough, but they are, so it's not that big a deal. We'd recommend, though, going with the original control scheme to start with. That obtuseness is a deliberate part of the original game's design. It's supposed to feel that way, but if you find the old ways frustrating, Konami have got your back. There's no shame in switching to baby mode, just don't admit it on the internet.
Who are you?
That almost non-issue aside, Metal Gear Solid Delta is a fantastic recreation of arguably the best Metal Gear game ever made. It doesn't change what it doesn't need to, it restores a classic rather than implanting it with new features. A new coat of paint and a slap on the back, and she's off. An excellent excuse to hop into the series once again, or indeed, for the first time. Delta is the sort of remake that makes you really consider what a remake should be. With a game like MGS 3, which hasn't aged poorly in our book at all, a remake should be as much a museum exhibit as much as it is a refresh.
If you're not the boss, then die.
In Delta's case, it's remade in a modern engine, sure, but all the quirks, all the animations are painstakingly recreated. Original voice lines are consecrated, save for some additive new performances. That's the trick, we think. Adding without accidentally taking away. Enhancing, not the opposite of that. Metal Gear Solid Delta: Snake Eater is faithful. It's a church dedicated to one of gaming's best stealth adventures. Updates to how the game plays are subtle, and in regard to the new gameplay style, totally optional. So much is left untouched, and that's for the best. Add in some original art, some obscure modes, and let her loose. Maybe the team behind Delta could have made an absolute scorcher of a game if they were allowed to change more or innovate more, but given where MGS3 lies in my heart and the pantheon of gaming greats, I think the safer, restorative approach was the best here. Let's not forget, it's an achievement for the development team behind Delta as well, some of whom were original staff from the Metal Gear Solid 3 team. The legend of MGS3 has been brought back to life thanks to their efforts, and the experience of playing it has put us in a position we couldn't have foreseen just a few years ago. Suddenly, excitement for the next Metal Gear Solid game, whatever it may be. If it's made with a modicum of the care Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater was, it might well live up to the series' legacy. 5 stars. Look, I'm all lined up there.